I just want to say welcome. We see that the majority of attendees have joined, so we're going to get started here today. Thank you to everyone who has joined this morning. We hope that everyone is staying healthy and safe during these times. And on behalf of St. Thomas University and all of our panelists, we want to say a special thank you to all of those on the front lines during this pandemic. They are risking their safety to help our communities become healthy. So I just wanted to take a moment to recognize them. Welcome to our very first seminar hosted by St. Thomas University's Alumni Association and the Gus Machado School of Business. Our timely topic is When the World Changes, Business and Crisis Management. I'll briefly introduce myself first. My name is Dr. Kevin Brady. I'm an assistant professor here at St. Thomas University. I teach the finance classes at the graduate level and some undergraduate. I'm also the program coordinator for our MBA program. I also help oversee the faculty advising of our students, along with all of the hard work of every faculty member. I just kind of coordinate. And I'm actually a faculty advisor for our student managed investment fund. So we have a real money fund that myself and other advisors help oversee for our students. So as you can probably guess, I will be moderating this panel discussion as we dive into our topic of business and crisis management. Just to give you an expectation of how this is going to work, we're going to be asking our panelists questions for approximately 45 minutes. And then we will conclude with 15 minutes to allow for some questions and answers. On your Zoom, we ask that you use the Q&A button to submit your questions to the panelists throughout the webinar. You don't have to wait until the 45 minutes are up. If something pops in your head, feel free to type it in there. And we'll answer as many questions as we can get through at the end, and we'll put a time limit on our panelists' response of about a minute. Again, we appreciate your participation. I want to thank all of our panelists in particular for taking the time to join us and share their expertise with all of us, including myself. I'm excited to hear what they have to say. So without further ado, let's give an introduction to our panelists before we start the questions. So our first panelist with us today is Mario Trueba. He is a class of 1980 alumnus of St. Thomas University when it was in Biscayne College. He's a current member of STU's Board of Trustees and a 2005 recipient of STU's highest alumni honor, the Leader for Life Award. Mario received an MBA from Florida International University, and he's had a storied career in banking, starting first with SunTrust in the mid-1980s, and he was recently named as the South Florida Regional President of First Horizon Bank. And in between, he has been the CEO, President, and Board member of Mellon United National Bank, and an integral in mergers and divestitures of various banking institutions related to that entity. Mario is heavily involved with the community as a current member of the Orange Bowl Committee and a membership of Leadership Florida Executive Program. He's formerly the chairman of Leadership of Florida and a vice chair of the Miami Children's Hospital. And perhaps the most important to Mario is that he's the proud grandfather to Camilla Elena. Okay, and also with us today is Maureen Shay. She is the co-founder and CEO of Right Management in the Florida Caribbean region, where she drives Right's growth in diverse talent management and career management services for privately and publicly owned companies throughout Florida and the Caribbean. And Maureen is the past president of Human Resource Association of Broward County and was inducted to its Hall of Fame. Previously, she served as the CFO of Right Management and has been recognized in this role by receiving South Florida Business Journal's CFO of the Year Award. And she's also received many other awards, including the Enterprising Woman of the Year and the Florida Diversity Council's Glass Ceiling Award. And particularly notable in these times of corporate social responsibility, Right Management Florida Caribbean was named the Socially Responsible Corporation of the Year a few years ago by Casimiro Global Foundation. Maureen is also a member of STU's Board of Trustees and has served on the finance committees of Holy Cross Hospital and the United Way of Broward. Our third panelist is Hortensia Ori. She is the CEO of In Bloom Group, a Miami-based floral company, where in just 8 years she went from an unpaid volunteer at that firm to its chief executive through hard work, creativity, and her e-commerce expertise. Hortensia is a multiple alumnus of St. Thomas University, receiving a BA in sociology, an MS in management and health administration, and also a master's certificate in public manager. She is a member of the National Association of Women's Business Owners, the Society of American Florists, Produce Marketing Association, and the United Way Women United. She is a member of President Armstrong's Board of Advisors at St. Thomas University, and she's actively involved in volunteers in her two daughters' school. And we're happy to say Catherine is a first year at St. Thomas University. And she also volunteers and supports to many nonprofit organizations. Okay, and our final panelist is none other than St. Thomas University's 10th president, David Armstrong. David came to us in 2018 with vast experience in administration and higher education, including positions as the former president of Thomas More University, the vice president and general counsel at Notre Dame College. He had roles at Mercyhurst College and Thiel College as well. President Armstrong holds a JD from Cleveland Marshall College of Law and a BA in political science with a minor in accounting from Mercyhurst University. Since taking the helm of the university in August 2018, not very long ago, he has spearheaded the launch of our football program and our marching band program, began construction on the Gus Machado School of Business, launched the Institute for Ethical Leadership, which includes bachelor's, master's, and doctorate programs, and also the Institute for Interfaith Leadership. And his leadership and expertise have resulted in record enrollment, 40% more in the 2019 year compared to the previous year, and record fundraising in 2019 of $10.7 million. He's also a member of the Orange Bowl Committee and the National Association of Independent Colleges and Universities Committee on Accountability. And I personally have experience. His family has really embraced the St. Thomas University. His wife, Leslie, hosted the faculty and other stakeholders at our home before the start of this academic year. His daughter, Johanna, is a current student, and I believe his son, David, is soon to join for his graduate studies. So these esteemed panelists are who we're going to be asking the questions today, and they're going to be giving our expertise in leadership and other areas that are important in this time. Before we get into the questions for our panelists, let's take a group poll so we have some audience participation. So we'll put up our first poll question, which you can answer by clicking. So take a minute or so to read the question. And I guess I can read it just for you in case you can't see. I see the type is a little small. From a business perspective, what was your initial approach to the COVID-19 crisis? Or if you aren't running a business, what would you have done? Already had an emergency plan in place? Formed a task force to devise a plan? Did you delay initial communication while you waited for more information or to create a plan? Or did you consult with other organizations or groups to inform your plan? Okay, and we're going to tally up the votes and just see what our audience members have done to prepare for this. Okay, and the results of the vote. Okay, I see the results of the vote. So we had a pretty even mix. So about 24% were pre-planners. They already had an emergency plan in place. 40% got active and formed a task force right away. 8% waited for new information, and 28% went and consulted other organizations and groups to get their expertise. Okay, thanks for everyone who participated in the poll. Okay, I guess now we'll get into our questions, and I think we'll start with Mario. So Mario, we'd like to know, as the former chair of Leadership Florida, what characteristics does a leader need to exhibit in a crisis to keep stakeholders motivated?
Terrific, thank you, and I apologize for late in the call. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Terrific, thank you. Again, it's a pleasure to be here. I would tell you that during these unprecedented times, and when I was running Leadership Florida as a volunteer during the middle of financial crisis, I think you have to exude confidence to folks. They need to be clear that whatever we're going through, we'll make it through. There's a sense of calm urgency that has to be in place, and that's what I tried to use then, and that's what I'm trying to use now. I think that you've got to show a real appreciation for and a concern for your colleagues and your clients, so therefore your stakeholders, as you all were referring to it. I believe that communication is key. There's no such thing as over communication. I just wouldn't overload it with too many meetings, because folks, I think, tend to have the mistake of having too many meetings, whether they be conference calls or whether they be live, and it takes away from actual productive time. So communicate, but try not to over meeting it. And the other part, which has always served me well, and particularly when things get bumpy, is that I tell people I'm a bad news guy. Tell me the bad news. I promise I won't overreact. Just disclose, and we'll deal with it. And if I think they're going to want to hear the good news, so we can celebrate it at times. And those types of things, sort of keep calm and carry on, a calm sense of urgency, is what helped during the bumpy financial times that we had last decade, and I think what will help us now.
Okay, great. And I think that's excellent advice, because, you know, Mario has been in banking since the mid-'80s. So he's lived through the financial crisis, the dot-com bubble, and a number of other crises. So this one, of course, is a little bit different, but all of that accumulated experience is good for our audience to hear your perspective.
Thank you.
We'll move on to Maureen Shay. I know that you have been active in assisting firms with their employment decisions in recent weeks as an HR leader. What general advice do you have for our audience on how to effectively navigate furloughs, salary reductions, things of this nature, without alienating employees, especially since this disease will pass and business will return at some point?
Mute. Okay, you've unmuted me. Thank you so much. Okay,
sorry about that.
So the question is, what are we seeing in terms of furloughs and payroll reductions and people being terminated? And as you know from just watching the news, it's happening in many situations, and companies are forced to have to make some decisions from a financial perspective so that they can make it through this time. I think the most important thing that we tell our clients is, you know, be compassionate, be truthful. Many of our clients are furloughing folks, and they're furloughing them for keeping their insurance benefits intact. A number of the insurance companies have been really lenient to be able to allow companies to keep the insurance for these employees. In fact, we have a career development portal that we are utilizing with some of these companies that are furloughing folks. So while they're unemployed and waiting until they go back to work, they can engage in some personal and individual and career development for themselves. In terms of salary reductions, it has happened, and everybody gets it. People understand that it's the business that needs to thrive, and the commitment to the company, and the understanding that it's because of the pandemic. People are really taking it very well and in stride. And then when it comes to the elimination of jobs, I think, again, the key is to be passionate, to be truthful. A number of the companies that we work with provide severance benefits, so people are financially secure for some time. And then, of course, the opportunity to utilize our services to help them look for their next career opportunity. I do believe that in the midst of all this chaos, companies are really trying very hard to do the right thing for everybody.
Yeah, and I think the thing I took away from that is the engagement part. I know, since I'm an employee of St. Thomas University, I know the administration, with the help of certain faculty, have really stepped up and provided training videos for us faculty while we've been at home. So there's always this kind of engagement and building of skills that is helping us through this, so we still feel part of the community, even though we're not face-to-face. So I think that was a good point. Okay, and Hortensia, I know that your own company, In Bloom, has gone totally remote. So what has been your own experience with this transition? And of course, maybe any tips you have for business owners or employees during this transition to maintain their productivity? What has maybe worked, and what did you find didn't work, so our audience can take something away from that?
Well, my company, we work in different countries. So for us, this remote working is second nature. So we work out of Colombia, out of Ecuador, here, in different states in the United States. So we have already done this. We've been doing this for a while. We chat, we use video conferencing, we use all sorts of different applications to be in constant contact with each other. So for us, it was pretty seamless, with the exception of possibly a few employees that needed larger bandwidth in their homes, especially in South America, where we needed to implement a few routers. But other than that, our IT team was ready for it. We do everything cloud-based. So our systems are cloud-based. It's proprietary system. So we did our own computer system, our own programs. So that enabled us to go ahead and flip the switch and everyone be working from their homes or wherever they needed to work. It is a difficult transition for some companies that have never worked remotely.
Yeah. Okay.
There are hiccups. You get into issues where there is no communication, there's issues where you can't get into your system, or maybe you haven't started working cloud-based, and it can be a little cumbersome to set it up. As far as employees, it depends on what department they work out of. So if they're not constantly on a computer or constantly dealing with other employees, it's difficult to gauge what they're doing and how to keep them on track if they're not used to it. It's difficult sometimes with all of the distractions. Like right now, for example, I'm outside because there's other people in my home and our pets that tend to come and say hello. So those are the distractions that some employees need to overcome. But for the most part, we've done really well. We only have a few employees that actually are working from either the office or the cargo agencies, which ship out our products.
Okay. Yeah, and as we spoke earlier before this started, I kind of like the whole dog issue because it brings kind of a human element to this. So yeah, it may delay the meeting for a couple of seconds, but it kind of shows that we're normal people, even though we're speaking through a computer.
Yeah, and there are so many different applications that you can use. You have Zoom, which we're on now. You have Skype. You have WhatsApp. You have WebEx. There's so many different, even free ones for smaller companies that they can establish. My suggestion is just each company to go ahead and work through it and establish this for contingency options.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the standard now after this, event that no one saw coming.
Yeah.
Okay, and now I'll move to President Armstrong. In particular, as the leader of an institution with a wide range of stakeholders, students, parents, faculty, coaches, the community, the church, what strategies have you been using to manage this crisis for all of these various parties?
Well, first, let me thank everyone for being here today, especially our alums and our trustees. It's so special to see them. We have great leaders, again, as an example to our students to educate leaders for life. And so thank you for being a part of this. And again, as Kevin said earlier, and I appreciate his leadership with our faculty and advising with our students. We all pray for our frontline medical people that are taking care of all of us during this crisis. To answer that question, I'm going to talk about 7 things. Number 1, never waste a crisis. Number 2, create certainty through quality communication. Number 3, a John Wooden quote. I'm a former coach. Be quick, don't hurry. Don't be afraid to distinguish yourself. Don't overcorrect. Meet daily to hold people accountable. And lastly, be compassionate, but never lose sight of the vision. And so if I can go back, never waste a crisis. I was taught early on by a lot of my mentors in education to never waste a crisis and find opportunities in crisis. So that's been our attitude from day one, is that we're going to find opportunities. And I'll give a couple specific examples. Our learning management system is Canvas. That's what our faculty use to put in grades and work with students virtually. And even though it was mandatory that all our faculty work on that, we were at about 50% participation on March 16th. Well, on March 17th, when we had to put all our classes online, guess what? We now have 100% participation in Canvas by our faculty. So that's a phenomenal opportunity now, because our faculty are now learning all kinds of new educational different modalities of delivery for their education, and that's just wonderful. Recruitment, another example of not waste a crisis. I met with all our recruiting people from the law school on down all the way to the undergraduates early on, and I said, listen, I know that you may think that I'm going to lower our goals. Actually, I'm going to increase them, because for the first time in your life, you have nothing to do other than recruit. And this is very important, we know where the students are. They're at home. And so as of right now, the law school's running ahead, the undergraduate's running ahead. And so we're bucking the trend because we've said this is an opportunity for us. And in talking, I had another meeting this past Friday with all those recruiters led by our Chief of Staff, Jamaica Wyndham, and Otis Miller, Director of Admissions, and Jennifer from the Dean of Law School. And I asked everyone to share ideas that they're using in recruitment, like weekly virtual meetings. We did a virtual orientation on Saturday, had almost 100 people attend that. And so we're finding new ways to get better. And so using those opportunities. Number 2, Mario said this earlier, as a leader, you must create certainty. You must create certainty in uncertain times. And again, through quality communication. And so making decisions and sticking with them is very important. Or making decisions that, like for us, graduation. We had a lot of concern about commencement. So we will do a conferral of degrees in May, but we're going to do a full commencement for these spring graduates because they deserve it in December, on December 11th. And we made that decision early. Be quick, don't hurry. That gets to that point. That was from John Wooden. Okay, hurrying can cause problems, but be quick and make your decisions. This is a one for more for my northerner friends. Don't overcorrect. So anyone that's driven in the snow knows that you have to turn into the skid when you're on a snowy road. But you can't turn in too hard into that skid or you'll end up doing donuts down the highway. So in this, you have a lot of people making decisions and in my opinion, overcorrecting, which that's going to create trouble down the line for your organization. Okay, so adapt, make changes, but don't overcorrect, because you need to, this is the key, hold to your standards, hold to your values, which gets to meeting daily. That's been very effective for our team. We did that during hurricanes. So now we're doing it again, and we're able to hold people accountable to the plan. And lastly, be compassionate, of course. We will give all the support that our students need, our faculty need, but in the end, we're going to hold to our standards, hold to our values, hold to the vision that we have for the institution.
Yeah, and I really, the adapt but don't overcorrect really hits home, because we can pick up these extra tools as an opportunity, such as being able to use these online tools. But then when we get back to normal, we'll just use those as an added benefit to our traditional way of providing great service to all of our employees and customers throughout all of our audience's businesses. Okay. So I think now what I'd like to do is maybe let's do our second poll, so we can have our audience kind of, after hearing some of what our panelists had to say. There's probably a lot of nervousness about the situation. So maybe some of this advice has hit home. So after listening to our extreme panelists, do you feel more confident about business management during a crisis and seeing this through to the other side? Okay. And the results, that's good. That not one person put less confident, but the majority feel more confident about the future. And I think that's the benefit of these types of things. We have a bunch of different experts in different phases of business giving us advice. So even if you can take one or two great takeaways from this and apply it, you're going to be able to get through this crisis like our leaders are doing for us now. Okay, so let's move on to our second round of questions for our panelists. So Mario, I mean, one of the biggest things in this crisis has been the federal stimulus package and the collaboration with the banking industry. Given all of this unprecedented stimulus, what is the economic outlook in South Florida, particular, or maybe nationally, if you have that kind of insight as well?
All right, thank you. I appreciate the question. I was also at some level asked to comment on what the banking industry has done relative to the packages approved by the government. Probably the most important thing where my industry is intersected with the government rescue / stimulus packages is the CARES Act / PPP, Payroll Protection Program. I think that's been a wonderful program. Not everyone has their money yet, let's be clear. It's going to take a little while, but understand that folks are changing the tires on a bus while it's in motion. That's dangerous and not easy. And I think given everything, the government and the banks have done a nice job with that, trying to keep people employed and trying to provide payroll protection. And it all started, say, about 16, 17 days ago. And in that period of time, it's been a lot of movement. The second round looks like it's about to get finally approved. Some folks think it happened yesterday. The president has to sign it, and there'll be more money getting in businesses' hands to help employees. From a economic standpoint, focusing particularly on South Florida, because I don't think, and I've commented on this historically, you can't extract too much from our local results compared to the rest of the country, and I don't think you can extract too much from the rest of the country compared to our results. I think I would be nowhere else but South Florida. I love it here, and I'm going nowhere. And good or bad, more people want to come see us. South Florida, we've got 30% of Florida's population. As you guys know, Florida is now the third largest state in the union by population. Tax, weather, and beach are not going to change. And as many of you know, we're essentially the capital of Latin America under the protection of the U.S. flag. You put that all together in what is an amazing place. Midterm and longer term, I'm very bullish around, I continue to be very bullish around our home, our areas. Short term, it's going to be bumpy. In many respects, we're an island. 95, 96% of our visitors come by plane. Obviously, planes are flying at a much smaller clip now. Once folks have the confidence again around flying, that should improve quite a bit, and it should help us get back to close to normal, but that's going to be a process and a half. As everyone on the call knows, you have the multiplier effect of money in the short term goes away because there's less money in circulation. We've got such a large hospitality and tourism service industry that's obviously going to be impacted and going to be impacted for a while as it relates to the cruise industry, the hotels, the convention parts that tie to group meetings, and that's going to take a while to get back significantly. There's going to be a little bit more reticence to international travel. All those things are headwinds. Sports, it's going to take a while for the sports to come back. They may come back on TV, but it's going to be a while until we're filling either the Dolphin Stadium or the American Airlines Arena or the BB&T Center, things of that nature. All those things contribute to a contraction in our economy. I think construction is going to continue relatively strong for a while on projects that already have broken ground. On those that may need to break ground, that'll be a little slower. So I think understand that Florida and South Florida has historically been a land of booms and busts. We've been able to sort of flatten the curve in today's terminology in many respects, but we're again going into an era, an epoch of a bust. So I see things slow short term, but I'm very confident around where we're going to go medium term and longer term. Our priorities now are making sure that people stay healthy and that we open up the economy carefully and in a strategic way. And I think good minds are focused on those things. Short term, bumpy, midterm and long term, I'm not concerned.
Yeah, and I think that also ties in with President Armstrong's comment before about opportunity. I was just reading something before this meeting today about the cruise industry and how now they're going to be employing robots to have the boats more sanitized than ever. So yes, there's pain in the short term right now, but eventually this is going to lead to new industries and also give confidence back to people to start using the tourism industry and the hospitality industry in South Florida.
And we're a community of entrepreneurs, and the fact that we're so entrepreneurial and that we're light on our feet, that'll help South Florida a bunch. And eventually folks are not going to want to not come to South Florida. I'm not sure we're going to catch Texas in terms of second in population. Maybe some of us don't want to get that far, but I think we're going to see folks continue to want to come here, both to live and to play once things settle down a little bit. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And Maureen, as a founder of a human resources talent firm that specializes in South Florida, what would you say to our job seekers, both recent graduates, of course, we're a university here, and to workers unfortunately laid off due to this crisis, to keep them motivated and also, to enhance their skills so they can secure a position quickly when we get out of this crisis?
So as Mario said, the good news is that it's not permanent. It's a moment in time that we are definitely disrupted, so to speak. But job hunting is very much a process, and the end result is to land that new opportunity. And because it is a process, it's a series of opportunities that you need to uncover. So resume building, interviewing, negotiating, networking, and oh my goodness, how we've learned to virtually network over the last month. It's been amazing to be able to have the opportunity to network, even though we're sitting in our kitchen at my kitchen table. So there's a lot of opportunity to hone your skills, to do your networking, to think about in terms of your career assessments. You may have been in the cruise industry and decide, you know what, now I'm really thinking about doing another field, and where do I take my talents and interests? So there's a lot of hope, and believe it or not, companies are continuing to hire. Like we see in the news, the thousands and thousands of people that are being furloughed, that are being let go. But there are industries that are growing: logistics, technology, banking. Healthcare has, where they have their ups, where they have the downs, they also have their ups. So we're seeing folks successfully land, and I think that is a really good message, both for our students that are thinking that they want to get their first job, as well as those that are in transition right now. So you need to keep your eye on the ball, take advantage of the time to enhance your own skill set, and think about what's next for you.
Yeah, and there's wonderful online resources that, some are free, or you can continue to pursue your education. I know my wife has started taking an accounting class through Coursera, just to keep busy while she's working at home. So there's many things you can do to add to your skills that will make you more well-rounded when this comes out. And Hortensia, as an importer in your business, you may be experiencing both supply chain issues and demand issues. So can you tell us about how both of these dynamics are affecting your business, which may apply to many in our audience, and how you're trying to overcome these, two opposing forces here?
Well, with us, it's interesting. So a lot of the flower not to grow. So we're dealing with an oversupply in South America and here in the United States. And then you have the airlines that, since they don't have enough people flying on the airlines and cargo because of the closure of most of the businesses, you have less supply to bring in freight. Less supply to bring in freight means less inspectors to come in and inspect the product that's coming in. So that creates delays for the few that are buying flowers. So us in the flower industry, it's a difficult position that we're in, because we still have the product. We still have people that want it, but they can't get it. Or people that wanted it, and then all of a sudden their location is closed and they can't have gatherings, or they can't have their businesses are closed, so they can't get the stuff that they need. So it's difficult for us in many respects, but at the same time, this is making us more nimble. It's making us more efficient. It's making us more effective in the way that we run our businesses. Us in particular, company, have not. We're making a decision to keep everyone on.
I think,
Whether saying that though you don't really think about them on a daily basis, they bring joy, even if it's one flower. It changes someone's perspective in a matter of a minute. So the whole issue with transportation, having a rocky start from South America, but here in the United States, you have essential products being moved. So non-essential takes a back burner to that as well.
yeah.
I think that, like I said, it's temporary. We know we're going to get back to the new normal. We know it's going to happen. It's just going to be a gradual uptick. And we are seeing that change now. With states opening up, there is more demand. And with Mother's Day around the corner, I think that it's important for a lot of people. And even if they can't be with them in person, they're going to go ahead and try whatever they can to show their support for first responders, their support for their family, and bring it out in that manner.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the big thing takeaway from that is, businesses are going to learn to become more nimble. I'm watching CNBC all day as I'm working, and one of the commentators had said that we've gone away from the business of trying to acquire customers, and it's more about cost efficiencies and improving our processes. So I can see a lot of business leaders are implementing the same kind of strategies as you.
But you always have to take the customer. It's about your customer. It's about, everyone involved in the chain. You're not only thinking about the company, you're thinking about the whole chain, because in flowers, you don't just have the farmer and the transportation. There's a lot of individuals involved. There's thousands of people that it takes to get to the end consumer. So as long as you're efficient, effective, and take everyone into account, I think that you can make it through this pandemic and come out the other side that much more efficient, more effective, and with the perspective of everyone can win from this.
Yeah.
Even though it is a difficult time for everyone involved.
Yeah, I think that's excellent advice. And now, David, I wanted to ask you another question. So have you been in touch with leaders of other universities? And just in general, what's the consensus among these leaders, and how are you positioning St. Thomas to turn the negatives into this crisis into a positive for our institution's future growth and prosperity? I know we have a lot of stakeholders listening today from our university, so I think this would help them.
Well, first, this is one of the great things about virtual webinars is one of my team members texted me and said that I said Jennifer instead of Jessica Fonseca-Nader, our Associate Dean of the Law School. So I gave the wrong name. That's because we have a Jennifer in the undergraduate recruitment. So Jessica, we love you. And Jamaica, thanks for sending me that. For me, the most pleasant aspect, if you will, in a pandemic and these challenges is being able to work with the other presidents in the state of Florida and local presidents. Early on, David Hogue from Warner University, a fellow Northeastern Ohio guy, said to me early on, he said, Dave, he goes, when I became a president, I knew it was going to be tough, but I didn't know that I was going to have to make decisions based on information I'm getting every 6 hours that's never happened before. And that's leadership, is when you're facing those kind of crises like that. And so I have found it invaluable. We have a group called ICUF, Institutions, Independent Colleges and Universities of Florida, run by Bob Boyd. They've done fantastic work with us to save EASE, the grants for private school, for students to attend private education in Florida. And they have been on top of this. We've had discussions with all the other presidents about the Department of Education stimulus. It's been wonderful. But my favorite moments are working with our local presidents. When this started to come to fruition, my phone started ringing as I was talking with some trustees and people like, hey, something's happening. We're going to have to make some decisions. President Rosenberg from FIU called me out of the blue. Dave, what can we help St. Thomas University with? A large state university that has a lot of resources. First thing, I was blown away. I mean, I'm actually getting emotional just talking about it now. And then locally, we have a historically Black university, private historically Black university, the Florida Memorial, excellent President Japhus Hardwick, new excellent president at Barry University, Michael Allen. Us three have been working together, constantly meeting. Early on, we were meeting every other day, then weekly. We're working together because we know that we serve the same constituency, the same type of students here in South Florida. And just working with them has been fantastic and getting different advice about how to do the stimulus, how we're doing at closing residence halls, what we're doing. And it's just been fantastic. And to end that, I'll just say that, and when I talked about in the previous question about distinguish yourself, we know this is a tough time. But a faculty member early on told me, Dave, never forget that in the 1940s, people at the age of 16 to 25 are going to all corners of the globe and laying down their lives for freedom. We're being asked to stay home. Other than the medical and the frontline workers that are delivering our food and all that, who are really on the front line. Most of us are being asked to stay home and watch Netflix and do our virtual meetings. So never lose sight of that, okay? So what we're asking our students and our faculty and our staff is that this is a great opportunity for us to learn how to overcome adversity, learn to take opportunities, and we're gonna make ourselves better as we get through this. We're gonna be a better university. We're gonna be better people as we come through this. And that's been our tack from the beginning, and that's kind of been our North Star, if you will, of how we're gonna run the university in this time. Because in the end, crises end because people held to their standards, held to their values, and overcame adversity. And to be honest, we're tougher than the situation. Be tougher. You know, the old saying, you know, tough times don't last, tough people do. And I truly believe that. And so that's how we're moving forward.
Yeah, I think that's excellent advice. And I want to thank the panelists for, you know, taking those questions. And I think now for our audience, we're going to open up questions to them. Well, we have about 15 minutes left. So I'll read one of the questions from Vincent, and then any of the panelists can chime in. What are or should we be doing to communicate the vision of what the post-crisis situation environment will look like? And more broadly, how are you motivating employees and other stakeholders that the endpoint will be worth the effort to get through this crisis?
Well, I think that I'll go first. I think it's never losing your vision, never losing your mission, okay? Make sure that everything that you do is mission-centric. It's about who you are. Yes, the delivery modality may change. How we're working from home rather than in the office may change, but none of that changes what the ultimate goal is and what your mission is. And so again, holding to those standards, and again, looking for opportunities to improve yourself and make yourselves better on the way out. So people have been asking, what are we going to do for the fall? So we've gone virtual for the rest of this term and for the summer. Okay, we've made that decision quickly. The fall, people are already questioning the fall. My hope is that the fall is like every other fall that we've ever had, and we're in class and we're going to football games and all that kind of stuff, and volleyball games. I'm hoping that's the way it is. But we have a contingency plan. So we're hoping for the way it's been in the past, but we have a contingency plan, and hopefully whatever we do, we're going to keep on taking the opportunity to get better and work to provide the best education we can for our students.
You know, I'll take a shot at it a little bit. I've been in this community since 1972, thank God. And as I mentioned before, we're boomer bust. That's historically what Florida's been about, going back to Flagler and then the hurricane and the depression. It's an amazing place. Have confidence in yourself. Have confidence. It's about community down here. People say we don't know our neighbors, but let me tell you, when there's a storm, they're there for you. It's an amazing place filled with wonderful people. I was just reading the other day that we're on the 40th anniversary, essentially, of the Mariel boat lift. What this community did with those 125,000 people, okay, during that period of time, followed by the Haitian refugee crisis and the Sandinista situation in Nicaragua that brought a lot of Nicaraguans to South Florida. It's amazing the folks that we've incorporated here and the contributions all those communities have made to enrich South Florida. So we have a lot to be optimistic for here. And as David says, keep your eye on the vision, but every day put one foot ahead of the other one, and we'll come out of it stronger. We're used to seeing and we're used to dealing with adversity. That's the strength of the folks down here, and that's the strength of South Florida in my mind.
And I'll piggyback onto that, Mario, that from our perspective and working with our clients throughout the state of Florida, that our clients are preparing for bringing their employees back. So they know it's a new world, they know it's a different world, but they're still very optimistic in terms of they do not want to lose the talent they have, that this is a a moment in time that we have to manage and work through, but there's a lot of optimism and hope to say we're going to get through it. And the economy was a very strong economy to start with. So as we bounce back, it will not be as hard as it was in 2008, 2009.
Okay. I think that's all good advice. And we have a question, kind of student-based. It says, as a student, how can we take these circumstances to grow or advance into a leadership position? And I know all of our panelists, besides all of their success in their own businesses, have done an enormous amount of volunteer and charity work. So is there anything, how can people right now develop into leaders? What kind of strategies could they do? How could they get more involved? How could they exhibit those characteristics?
You're 100% right about the volunteering across the panel, but I would encourage students to get involved. It's about community in the end. Get involved, volunteer. It doesn't matter whether it's a soup kitchen one day and reading to the blind the next day or helping with the arts. There are a lot of good causes that are all struggling. The not-for-profit sector struggles greatly during these times. So volunteer at St. Thomas. There's all sorts of opportunities for you, and that'll help you create larger networks and will let you develop skills that many situations you don't know you had, and it'll help you grow. It'll make you feel connected to an organization and to a region that much more powerfully.
Take advantage of the time to continue to study, too. Take advantage of it. You don't have distractions of hanging out with your friends and going to the beach. So, hone your skills so that you are ready for your next adventure.
Okay. Good, great responses. And then I think this is an interesting question from someone in our audience. What changes that were driven initially by this response to COVID-19 do you plan or hope to continue implementing once business, education, or just general life go back to normal? So in other words, what innovations have you kind of discovered through this process, which I think goes to President Armstrong's opportunity comment before? What has been that aha moment that, wow, this we should be implementing all the time, not just now?
Yes, I'll just carry on the point with our faculty, getting our faculty educated more on virtual learning, because we will be having a big strategic plan launch. Our new strategic plan is coming forward, Limitless, and that'll be in mid-May, and so look out for that. But I'll kind of give you a little taste of it. One of the things that we're talking about is becoming a global online university. What do we need to do that? And so this situation that we've had has put us on the path of what we've already put in our strategic plan. So we're very happy about that. We also have another big announcement coming up, and because you're on this webinar, you're the first to hear. We want to be a part of the answers. So like Mario said, and Maureen said, say yes to opportunities or yes to challenges now, and show your worth during crises and in uncertain times. So St. Thomas University is going to announce that we are starting a new institute for pandemic, disaster, and quarantine research. And it will have 4 pillars: business, data analytics, law, and ethical leadership. So how do the decisions that we've made over the last several months, how has that affected the economy? How has it affected crime statistics, health statistics, legal and civil liberties, individual liberties, and what kind of decisions were made and were they effective or not? And so we want to become the national and hopefully global answer repository for all that information, all that data analytics. And it's a very interdisciplinary program. So we're very excited, but we want to become leaders in this area.
That's awesome.
Okay, excellent.
I think you're going to see.
Yep, go ahead.
I think you're going to. Go ahead.
No, Mario, please.
Clearly, the largest change that came about this is that folks in more traditional industries like mine have found that with certain limitations, you can work remotely. So I think you're going to see more quote unquote stodgy industries, old school industries, adapt and adopt that a little bit more. I don't think you're going to see the whole banking workforce working at home, and I lose a lot by not interacting directly with my clients. But I think you're going to use an increasing amount of video conferencing and more folks looking to spend a little bit more time at home working. I think you're going to see an evolution. That has ripple effects throughout the economy in many ways, and we're going to deal with that entrepreneurially as we go. But I think that's going to. I'm not sure it's here to stay to the level we are now. Hopefully not. But I do think you're going to see a further evolution of that side of the business.
Okay, great. And I think we have time for one more, maybe one more question. This one hits home to South Florida. With little to no sports events happening due to COVID, how are businesses going to adapt to this kind of, maybe financial loss going forward? And I guess we can apply this to other businesses as well, not just sports. What are the innovative techniques we can use? I just think when I think of that question, not to trump anyone, I think of NASCAR. I know NASCAR has been actually racing virtually. Clearly, it's not the same as going to a race day at the Homestead Raceway, but I thought that was pretty cool that they did that. What kind of things in sports or other businesses have you seen that may have been innovative to, offset this financial loss in the short term?
Kevin, I was just going to say, can you unmute Hortensia? She wanted to comment on a couple things and she's muted.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, someone just did.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay.
Hortensia, please, you go. We have about 3 minutes, so let's hear some of
No, it's fine. It was like 2 questions ago, but it's okay.
Well, why don't we take it for a minute and then we can follow up on that question.
Okay. A few of the things that I was thinking about is a lot of companies, like Mario said, have had to go virtual. So this is going to create a lot of hybrid situations where you're going to get the best of both. So there may be a time where you can't go visit a customer in another state for extenuating circumstances, but you can have a face-to-face, even if it's on a computer, for 10 minutes. And that is a huge advantage of being over the phone, because you see what they're feeling. You can really take their perspective and be able to share things with them, like if you're talking to them. So I think that is going to make sure that companies take into consideration the face-to-face and not just phone. And this will allow them to do that, and it'll allow them to take it to the next level.
And if I can add to that, I foresee in the future, I love South Florida, I love Miami, if you see my new screen, but traffic is interesting here, let's just say that. And so we are now, our admissions team doing a wonderful job doing virtual tours. And so I can see, instead of somebody canceling because of bad traffic, they call us up and say, hey, listen, I have an admissions appointment at 10 o'clock, but can I do it virtually because there's a major accident on 95? And so being more nimble, using more virtual, and I think our faculty will be able to do that. And so I think there's some great, exciting things that are coming out of this that, again, we can be more effective, more efficient for our constituencies, so their lives are easier and they can better make the decisions and get their education.
Okay. Well, I just want to, say thank you again to all of our panelists. They're taking out time. This is a very stressful time for all businesses. So to talk to our stakeholders for an hour is excellent. We're going to keep doing these webinars. So we're going to try to have one each month. So keep an eye out in your email, and, stay safe, and we will get through this. I think that is the message, and use it as an opportunity.
God bless you.
Thank you.
God bless
Thank
you.
you. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Bye.